Welcome to Vision Pros, the show all about spatial computing, Vision OS, and getting work done on the Apple Vision Pro. I'm Tim Chen, host of the show.
It's an exciting area of technology. You ask about how AI can be applied to 3D. There's a fair amount of video-based AI now that can generate tracking information purely based on video. Another exciting thing, a lot of the equipment that you used to need, face tracking can now be done with cameras or even LiDAR, like with iPhone, face tracking stuff.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Vision Pros. Joining me today is John Gearty, who spent 10 years at Apple before moving on and starting PulseJet Studios. PulseJet is an app you can download for your Apple Vision Pro that lets you experience 360-degree VR music videos as well as concerts. And in this episode, we dive into, first off, his background at Apple, some of the stories you can tell from that time, his experiences with VR some 25 years ago, and how that kind of led to where he is today. And we dive fully into PulseJet. We dive into all the innards of the app, how they actually capture these performances, how they're crafting and creating these full CGI music videos, and much, much more. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so by heading over to visionpros.fm/Patreon or by subscribing in Apple Podcasts. My great thanks to everyone that supports the show. And with that, here's my discussion with John, all about PulseJet. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, John.
Thanks, Timothy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So lots to dive into today. First, I just want to hear about your background with headsets. This is always an interesting thing I find, like where people discover headsets. For me, it was PlayStation VR 1 back from PS4. So I'm curious, what was your first headset?
Okay, first headset. I think, going back, I tell people I was involved in VR. The first time was cool. Many years ago, I started with a VR company called Transcend Technologies. And honestly, off the top of my head, I can't even remember what headset we used.
Yeah.
We used to use Onyx, SGI Onyx workstations, and they're high-end workstations. I honestly don't remember. I remember Cyber Gloves and Flock of Birds tracking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure which actual headset we used at the time.
Okay. And using headsets back then, like how long ago was this?
This is like 25 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I'd say the first time was cool.
Yeah. And what was that experience like back then? And did it inform like where you thought this technology could go?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So at that time, it was not commercial at all. It was 100% enterprise. So we were doing like ergonomic studies with automotive manufacturers in Detroit. So Ford and Chrysler and that type of thing in digital bucks. And we get in and see how you could scale a digital human. So it's a totally different thing. But the thing back then is you needed all this enterprise gear and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear to make it happen. And so, I wanted it to be a consumer thing, and I saw the opportunity there. But it took 20 years for everything to come together to make that happen, to make all of this technology miniaturized enough so that you've got IMUs in the headset, you've got, sensors in the 12 sensors on the thing that can track everything. You've got, high quality displays, high resolution displays in the headset. Like that has taken a very, very long time to come together. So I saw the opportunity all along. It's just been a matter of all these technologies, not to mention the graphics and accelerators and GPUs and things to make it all come together. So it's been a road.
Yeah, for sure. And for you, has gaming ever been a part of headset usage, or has it primarily been the productivity and enterprise stuff?
Yeah, good question. I'm I like Halo and stuff like that on the Xbox.
Yeah.
I'm not a big gamer, but as a matter of fact, I played Beat Saber this morning. That's my winter workout because
it's great.
I still think it's like the best thing probably on Meta Quest. Like gaming is a ton of fun. So I'm not too much of a gamer. I got to say I don't have too much time for it. I like gaming, but of course it's amazing on the headsets. Yeah. And
just ask because headsets up until now, until the Vision Pro and other enterprise type stuff has been mostly for gaming, because that's where it's been the easiest to do it well. I feel you're able to hide you're able to hide some of the restrictions with games.
Yeah, and I've played, right, and you can have cables and things like that. So I've done a little gaming on PlayStation. I have a friend with a PlayStation VR headset done some Star Wars games and things like that, and shooter games in headset. And I don't know. To me, this is a couple of years ago now, but they still kind of weren't there on the on the gaming platforms. They were a little slow. The graphics wasn't great. So,
Yeah.
I think all this focus of getting everything into one headset. I mean, I think MetaQuest has still kind of led the way, and Vision Pro at the consumer level, broader than games, are kind of leading the way. So
for sure. So prior to PulseJet, which we'll be diving into shortly, you spent a decade of your life over at Apple working on some of our favorite products, including iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch. Nearly 4 years on the Vision Pro itself, starting back in 2019. So what, if anything, from the decade can you share about your time there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I can, of course, can't talk about a lot of the internals, but it's an amazing time to be there. I mean, we went from, I should know the numbers exactly, but, 20, 30, 40,000 people to 100,000 people. Like the growth while I was there was just insane. It was a very exciting time to be there. I joined not too long after Jobs died. I remember actually going to his kind of events when I was still a vendor working with Apple before I joined. But he had moved on. Tim had taken over, and still so much exciting stuff. I mean, I was working on the watch. I was working on the iPhone, working with on the mechanical engineering side at that time. So I was part of mechanical CAD engineering, and very exciting place to be. A lot of different products groups, all with really talented people. Watch was a fun thing to work on because the miniaturization component of that was just pushing the limits.
The watch just rapidly improved every generation those early days. It was just like every year was like, oh, this is like a groundbreaking new thing. They fit cellular in. They, did all these things. It just every year was a big leap forward, it felt like.
Yeah, and it kind of broke the wearables category, I mean, I remember just people talking about Rolex and all the big watch manufacturers, luxury watchmakers, that's, what's going to happen to this industry. And of course they're still around, but wearables have taken off, and you've got watches. You got a lot of Google's done a great job with their watch as well. Great form factor, and to see wearables. I mean, to see the miniaturization to the point where it becomes wearables is really exciting. And now, I mean, I think the Vision Pro is like that in many ways. In that, it's breaking the miniaturization ground. It's I think everyone sees the whole industry moving in the direction of glasses. So you'll have glasses you can wear outdoors, like wearables that you can actually wear around every day. And so that's all very exciting. But back to my time at Apple. I mean, I spent 5 years on the mechanical engineering side. Worked with some super duper smart people, John Turnus, within iPhone and Mac, and a number of great hardware leaders over there. And then I moved in to do some more AI machine learning oriented stuff for a little bit. That was super exciting and cutting edge, and kind of a foray into all of the AI stuff that's coming out now. So that was interesting and scary territory to be there. And then moved over and worked on the headset for quite a bit in Mike Rockwell's group, and that was my dream product, really. So a great place to be, and landed me where I am today.
Yeah, Mike seems like a great guy that has a real eye on the ball with where he wants the platform to go. Yeah,
Mike is a great guy. Absolutely, enjoyed working with him. He has a Dolby background. Like, he's a music guy at heart in a lot of ways, and so I remember him being a Phil Collins fan and going to see that show big time. But he gets all the aspects of the product, which is really important. On a device like that, you've got to understand the hardware, the AI ML stuff that goes into it, the sensors, the sound. There's just so many elements that go into it. There's been some estimates out there that it's on the order of 10 times as complex as the iPhone. And so to someone that orchestrates and puts that all together just has to know a lot of things. In my case.
Yeah, I believe it. And I've said before on the podcast, but the soundscape within Vision Pro is just remarkable to me. Like, everything's just so thoughtfully designed. Even like going to the home screen, this like subtle like buzz or hum. It's like every part of it just seems perfectly well done. Yeah.
Sound team there was great. And like everything at Apple, it's pretty well thought through. So
sure. Yeah. And as far as your role with the Vision Pro, you were part of the team that was working on the interaction models, right? And figuring out.
I worked on a few things. Yeah, I was a program manager. Engineering program manager was the role over there. I worked quite a bit on the interaction model, on the input system, on the UI frameworks, a lot of those elements.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Was that a fun playground? Just experimenting with like it's like almost like designing the original iPhones, like figuring out like what's the interaction about. Like Vision Pro, much more, a lot different ways you can solve the various problems of interacting with eyes and hands. Yeah.
Well, for sure. And this is an area, I can't talk too much about
Sure.
what was tossed around and what was ultimately decided on. But what, I can talk about is what's out there now, which is the hands and eyes interaction model. And that's, a magical experience. And that's what it was intended to be. And there was a lot of debate about whether that was the right thing to do. And of course, there's a lot of people out there saying you should have controllers, and now there's, aftermarket controllers and things like that. But that was a big decision for Apple to go with the hands and eyes interaction model. And I think it's pretty magical. And so you get, I think you get the Minority Report effect when you're going through and flipping things through. And now it's so second nature. Like I don't even, when I put my headset on, I'm just flipping things around, realize. But I think that's one of the magical features of the product.
Yeah. Well, my favorite things, my daughter was born, she's just over 2 now. So like when she was, I would be the one that puts her to bed, and when she like finally falls asleep on my lap or whatever chest, I then put on the headset when she's totally asleep, and I can actually use it without worrying I'm going to drop like my iPad on her or something, and just look and tap, and it's like a very nice experience doing that.
Super nice, and you can enjoy a moment with your daughter, right? Like, yeah, it's
totally,
it's that type of thing that's absolutely magical and game changing, and just. Yeah, the ability to be hands-free is I think people underestimate what that is. I was thinking about, education earlier today, and like I'm a guitar player, as you can see from my background.
Yeah.
And like, learning guitar or piano or whatever, just the ability to be hands-free while you're doing that and flip a page with a move of your thumb or whatever.
Totally.
Is a pretty big game changer.
Yeah. So prior to the Vision Pro, you got to play at a different playground with Project Titan. So you've had experience with Apple product no one else in the world will ever will, and I'm probably you probably can say probably the least about this since it's never actually launched.
Yeah, I can't really talk about I can't really say whether or not I worked on that project, but or what that project was, but I've heard about it. Yeah, it's there's some exciting things. I can say I worked on some AI and ML related stuff, machine learning, and it was very interesting. That gives me a perspective on what's going on in AI today, because I understand how AI models work very well, and I understand what works and what doesn't and why it works. And the most scary thing about AI today, there's a lot of AI engines that will do everything from, run your customer service organization to make videos for you.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about AI is that it's unpredictable, and you don't know why it's making the decisions that it makes, right?
And it may make different decisions if you try 10 minutes later, right?
Yeah, definitely. Or my favorite example is ChatGPT. Like there was a point where they trained it to do, like it was really good at a bunch of things, including math, and then they trained it to do some other things, and all of a sudden it was really bad at math and got it was only going at 3% right on math. So I just think that the whole space of artificial intelligence and ML is fascinating right now, and but also scary because you do not know what it's going to do or why. And I think I hear a lot of people talking about tools or products, AI as tools or like a spreadsheet, and I don't think it is, because it's actually thinking for itself in a way that people don't appreciate if you don't understand the technology.
How do you think AI can work within the context of VR and AR? Like, what roles do you think that could eventually have?
Yeah, good question. I just flipped on Meta's AI assistant in Quest for the first time today. I hadn't done it before. Of course, leery about listening to everything that I'm doing and processing it. Where's that going? So I'm pretty careful about security, but of course it plays a role. I think that I also saw some news today on some Apple Intelligence stuff that is falsely reporting suicides and people coming out as gay when they're actually not, and so on.
Yeah, the notification summary stuff. Yeah,
that is really scary to me.
Yes.
And so, first and foremost, I think AI needs to get right, just doing, ordinary 2D stuff, if you will. But of course, it has incredible implications in VR as well. If you look at, for example, VR headsets have the ability to scan your entire room and recognize what's in that room. So I can say there's a couch over there. and there's a guitar hanging on your wall or whatever. If you feed that into a AI model, it can tell you a lot about the room. Even if you aren't in the room, it could scan the room and tell you what's going on in there. It could guide you around potentially. There's just extrapolate everything you do in 2D and AI, and it could be done in 3D. I mean, and the voice assistants are great, of course. That's all AI powered. Siri on the iPhone, and everyone else has their equivalent. I think it's interesting that the Samsung release or Samsung Google release, of course, last fall was interesting, and they did position it as a Gemini piece of equipment, which is their AI engine. So there's a role, certainly, but yeah, I think AI first and foremost should kind of flesh out some of the basics. I like to see the basics working before it's really, the full power is turned on elsewhere.
Yeah. And it's probably machine learning, but if they could figure out how to spatialize flat 2D videos, that would be a magical thing. They did it with photos, and I'd love to see that done for videos one day.
Well, okay. So now you're getting into our territory, which is definitely where there's great opportunity. And so,
yeah.
The creative aspects of generating 2D and 3D are incredibly powerful. And our team went out and did actually an evaluation of about 30 different AI tools and how they apply to 3D. The creative area is the most exciting, and it's the least dangerous because you generate a picture, you generate a 3D model. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Especially for our creative purposes, you put something out there, and it just doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, some of the imperfections can be really, really great in a creative scenario. So yes, we're having a ton of fun with these. Starting with, for example, we can use AI skyboxes. We use Skybox, and you can generate a world. You can say, give me a mountain scene in Colorado with an aurora borealis above it, and boom, you've got it, and you're in that environment.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And you can potentially do that in real time. You can make 3D models out of those. There's now the 3D tools in AI are somewhat immature, but you can take a picture and drop it in and create 3D models. You can take 3D models. I just saw today. I forget which one this was. Luma, maybe. You can take a 3D model and drop it into an image, and give it a prompt and have it make a video out of that 3D model. I don't think it goes the other way yet, but creatively, super duper exciting possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. And I know in the video game world, they're using AI machine learning stuff to upscale 1080p video or to 4K, and it looks great.
We're doing that as well.
Yeah.
Topaz is kind of the standard tool for that. It's a great tool. We've used it already for 6K to 8K upscaling. We're actually doing a project with Bjork, and we're using it for some of her stuff that was recorded in Iceland 4 or 5 years ago. It was all 6K. We're upscaling it to 8K and adding 3D to it. So
nice.
That's
very
Topaz
cool.
A great tool.
Yeah, and with the headsets, you want super high resolution stuff because where you're looking, the screens themselves are 4K per eye, but I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically you need a lot more than 4K because you're gonna be looking at certain parts of the image, not everything all at once.
Yep, Our videos are 8K, and then there's you can go 11K, 12K, 14K. I was at the Sphere over New Year's Eve watching Anima, and it was an absolutely epic show.
Yeah,
and so I think their screens are 16K, and so of course the higher resolution, the better you get, and you're dealing with displays and bandwidth all along the way. So many challenges in that regard.
No, I've heard amazing things with the Sphere. I really want to go one day. It seems like a cool experience.
You mean you want to go to it? The Sphere in Las Vegas? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I thought you said you want to get one. That'd be
great.
They're only $2.4 billion.
Yeah, right. I know. It's a build one.
Too rich for my blood, but
no,
you should definitely go. We've seen 2 shows there now. I've seen the Grateful Dead and Anima, and they're both amazing, and the graphics there are just outstanding. Yeah.
How's it compared to fully immersive, an Apple Vision Pro type stuff versus in real life? It must be better, right, in real life, I'd imagine, versus what they can do in VR.
It's very, very similar and different, of course. I mean, being with 20,000 people in the sphere is awesome, and being with everyone experiencing that, the thing at the same time is amazing. And I think being in a headset, the graphics can be almost exactly the same. In fact, we could take on stuff and put it on our servers and get it out to people in Vision Pro or MetaQuest quite easily. But and the graphics would be the same, but it'd be a solitary, more or less a solitary experience, unless you can share it with a number of people and so on. But yeah, that's kind of the difference. Technologically, they're very, very similar. And then the back end, the things that they use, Unreal Engine and Unity and Blender and other CG tools it's the same pipeline, really.
Gotcha. Yeah. So with the Apple Vision Pro, I'm just curious about a couple of things as far as your usage. So outside of working on PulseJet, what's your day-to-day like for your actual usage of it? What do you tend to hop into and use it for?
Sure. So I mean, the best thing about it to me is that, you can do anything you can do on your Mac. So, I do a fair amount of, we do a lot of video editing and audio mastering, and I have, mostly, excuse me, a team of people that do that, but I do a fair amount of it myself as well. And so, yeah, bringing up the big screen is awesome for that, right? You get a Final Cut Pro window up, and you can drag things around, or a Logic window, and you just get a lot of real estate. I happen to have a nice big widescreen physical display, so I use that most of the time. But I can be on the airplane and doing my editing and get that full screen. Another thing for music, one of the big for widescreen. I find that scores, like I read tablature for guitar, and so if I bring up a tablature, and some of these things are just monstrous, and so on a normal screen you're like scrolling through it, and every time you hit a new verse, you got to flip the page, and it's a distraction, right? You can literally bring up like an entire song in front of you, and that's just incredibly powerful. So yeah, kind of the big screen things are the things that I use it most for. It's also fun just for, excuse me, to watch movies with people, or to get, like, I was with a friend, actually a board member of ours, and we dialed in on the moon together, and we're just watching videos and chatting and catching up, and that's a pretty cool experience. Like, it's surprisingly fast. And I mean, it's like this web conference, only next level, right? In fact, we probably should have done this. I don't know if you're doing podcasts,
I tried once, just the recording aspect is a bit hard currently.
Yeah.
It's the same iPad problem where you only have one microphone and you can't share them between different apps. Yeah.
Yeah. But for all intents and purposes, it's an extension of a web conference like this, where,
for sure.
But we can be kind of in the same room and feel like we're talking to each other. And that to me is surprisingly real already. And the latency is low and it's pretty realistic with avatars and things like this.
Yeah. What do you feel that Apple nailed the most with Vision Pro? Like, what's your favorite aspects of this versus, say, MetaQuest and some of the other things out there?
Yeah, good question. I think a couple things. I think that the resolution still, when I talk to people using MetaQuest, and when I go back and forth and look at our own content between MetaQuest and Vision Pro, and actually, do you have a Quest? You have a Vision Pro?
I don't. I have a PSVR 2 is my other headset I have.
Okay.
And that's 2K per eye. And I noticed right away in just reading text in, say, Resident Evil, it's blurry at 2K per eye. At 4K per eye, it's like, oh, this is like, I call it Retina. Like, it seems like it's Retina quality as far as that.
It looks so different to me. Everything looks so different, and even surprising stuff where I'm like, this isn't really designed for resolution necessarily, but it looks clear and clean. And I don't know the graphics layers super well, but I didn't work with the graphics team, and there's a bunch of geniuses, of course, at Apple, and they do a lot of magic to make the little bevels on the edges of the windows, just blend perfectly. The most distracting thing I've noticed is with the Christmas tree. If I have the window in front of the Christmas tree, it'll be like shifting colors as the lights change a bit. It's like, it's working as it should, but it's like I should not put my window in front of the Christmas tree. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's those kind of magical things that you and you take for granted a little bit.
Yeah.
When you get in there and it's like, this is great. And then you talk to someone on Quest and they're like, this stuff doesn't look as good. And I'm like, you got to try the Vision Pro. It's just so much better. So
Yeah.
that's number one. And then I'm biased on the second one, but I think that the interaction model of hands and eyes is quite a bit of magic. And so when you get you watch people going through demos at the Apple retail stores on these things, and they're flipping through and flying through, and once they get it, they're like, whoa, this is cool. So
Yeah. And the aha moment of, oh, your hand can just be in your lap versus like all out in front of you. Like it takes a bit to learn that. Yeah.
It takes a while. Everyone's like trying to pinch everything in front of them. Like, no, just keep your hand by your side and just do this. Yeah. Cool.
Do you have any favorite environments? You mentioned the moon, and that's one of my favorites for video, especially because it hides the black bars well, and bad apps that don't take those off.
Yeah, I don't. That's kind of the one. It's kind of my go-to. Another one that comes to mind is just I think it's in Oregon. There's like a lake.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it's called. And it's not like it's one you wouldn't pick to go to because it's like, hey, it's kind of a rainy, dreary environment. But the way that they've done it is a little bit magical. Like you go there and you look at the ground around you. You're kind of on a beach. And the rocks and sand or whatever's around you looks pretty realistic, and then just the raindrops. There's like super subtle raindrops coming down, and it's the kind of rainy day that you kind of want to be in. You're kind of like, yeah, I can just chill today and hang out here and relax, and it's very relaxing somehow. So it's a weird choice, but that's my kind of second one.
One of my favorite thing to do with the moon is to recenter myself, so it's like 180, so I can see the Earth in the sky. Because by default, it's behind you. I would love a way, maybe in VisionOS 3, where it allows you to like rotate the environment a bit. Because there's stuff behind you that's quite nice sometimes. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you can't really rotate the environment. That'd be nice.
Yeah, you have to like trick it into like, let me be in a swivel chair and rotate around before I enter it.
Oh, yeah.
As far as VisionOS 2, what has the ultra wide screen display been kind of your favorite aspect of that so far?
I would have to say, that's by far, that's really the major feature that was in 2 that was like, this is it's what people have been waiting for and asking for, and kind of like, why didn't we have this at first? Like this is let's use this screen for all it can be. And so I'd say that's the key feature in 2.
I'm also glad not to have to look up at the sky to get to Control Center anymore. That's a nice change.
That was a nice one.
With the hand.
Center. Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm still used to that little flip, and I'm not sure I still get it to grab that little ball and flip it over.
Yeah.
But that's a nice one.
Yeah, it's definitely taking me some time to learn about it, and it's gotten better with every point update for it working. In the early days of 2, it didn't recognize my hand. If I was in like a fully immersive environment, it'd be like, you're not looking at anything right now, but it seems to be doing better now with that.
Yeah, that was a rough when they rolled that out on beta. It was a little rough, but it's there now.
And then, any favorite apps that just of note on VisionOS?
Let's see, favorite apps. I had to PulseJet is pretty good. Have you checked that or whatever?
I have, yeah.
Real favorite of mine. Yeah, I spend a fair amount of time in kind of the immersive video stuff because that's really it's really come a long way. Immersive Bliss happens to be another local one that's doing a good job, and they do comedy shows and that type of thing in there. So
I've checked a couple of those out. It's pretty neat. Like there's a whole industry of these different kind of apps of either performances that are captured, and it feels like you're there, which is cool.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to leave Apple prior to the Apple Vision Pro launch? The product's almost launching, and then let's do PulseJet. Was it kind of like, I know this Vision Pro's coming, it's been pretty great. I want to get PulseJet there for day one, almost kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I had reached, first of all, I reached 10 years at Apple, so that was a good stopping point for me. And we had actually finished the operating system of Vision Pro. Is it functionally complete at that point? And I had been working on music-related stuff for quite a while as a passion project, if you will, side project, weekend project, with some other folks at Apple. And I had been talking to Mike Rockwell about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go with things. And it was a little different direction than they could go with certain things at the time. But I was super passionate about it. And so when we hit feature complete, I decided it was time to move on. And by the way, I dated myself earlier when I said I've been involved in VR for 25 years. So this isn't just like something I thought of overnight. This is, of course, something I've been following very, very closely all my life, followed the whole industry, and decided that this was the time that, I saw an opportunity. And so that was it. I left Apple. I couldn't take the things that I had worked on nights and weekends because, of course, that's intellectual property at Apple. So I had to think of something yet different, slightly different than what I was doing there. Quite different, in fact. But that was the start of it. Yeah.
Very cool. So the stuff you're working on the side while at Apple, does Apple? I don't know if you're able to say this. Do they let people just I believe the music memo app was like one of those side projects. Someone just was like in their spare time. They're just like in event. Sometimes they do stuff with that, or
there is no spare time at Apple. So it's kind of a funny thing,
right?
Because, I mean, you are working. Honestly, the people that I work with at Apple are some of the hardest working people on the planet. Like just truly. Sincerely grinding away 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week. Crazy.
Because was it Google that gives you 10% of time to do like fun, whatever you want projects kind of thing?
I thought of that when you said that.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh because that would not happen at Apple.
Right.
So even reflecting on my time, I'm like, how did I find the time to do that? I think I got to the point where I was good enough at my job that I could do it in, only 80 hours a week and then spend the extra 30. I don't have kids, by the way. That actually helps. Like I don't know how people have a family at Apple. It's pretty nuts. Like mad respect to the people with kids at Apple that go home and after a very long day and of people screaming and yelling at you and have their kids screaming and yelling. Right. That's pretty crazy. But no, so there's not a lot of side projects, and I found it hard actually to move around and do the things I want. That was a challenge at Apple, frankly.
Yeah.
I tried very hard to move into and do what I wanted to do and find a way to make that fit. Now, what I wanted to do was a reach and not within Apple, so that's why I had to go elsewhere. But they do, they give you opportunities and try to find ways of allowing you to work on the things that you want to work on. I mean, there's for example an apps team, right, within the Vision OS group, and so you can go work on certain apps and then try and work on the features. And of course, you have to lobby for the features. This is just politics, right? You need to lobby for the features that you want in the product that you think are important, and sometimes those don't align. It's not always what you want to be doing isn't what you need to be doing. And there, of course, Apple has very specific features they need to release, and you got to be working on those. So it just makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So what is PulseJet? What's like the elevator pitch you give to friends and family curious about what you're up to these days?
You bet. So I say we do two things. It's really, we're all about music, and we do, I tell people two things: VR music videos and concerts. Mm-hmm. And those are different things. The VR concert thing has been out there for a while, and you saw like The Weeknd, for example, did a big thing. Yep. We did Joshua Tree Music Festival last year and captured 6 performances, and those are published on our app. That's fairly well established, actually, at this point. There's a lot of people doing VR concerts. But the VR music videos is the second aspect, and that's much more interesting to me, and it's becoming more the direction of our business. And a VR music video is, of course, like a regular music video, except it's wrapped all around you, right? You're inside the music video. And so I call it a spherical canvas. This is around us. And sorry, this is not an elevator pitch. No,
sure.
It's a very long elevator run.
Long elevator.
But we are in a long elevator today.
Yeah.
So, VR music videos, it's spherical canvas, and so we're trying to bring you inside the music video and do new things, create new worlds for you to go into. But music is the key part of it. Bjork really inspired us, and so that's why we're working with Bjork today. Is she did what we consider to be the first VR music album, about 4 or 5 years ago now. Actually, she was ahead of her time. The technology, frankly, wasn't ready for it, and we have now signed an agreement to remaster Volnicura was the name of the album, and bring it to Vision Pro and bring it to Meta Quest and probably Android XR when it comes out. But the concept of a VR album is really kind of central to our business model. And so it's like, not only did she do one song, she did 8 songs, recorded largely in Iceland, some of it video, some of it animation, some of it avatars. But there's a lot of music. If you think of albums through the years, if you think of Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon or whatever, like,
that just came right to mind. Dark Side of the Moon.
Okay.
Create a VR version of that. Like, yeah. I in high school, my dad got me a Super Audio CD player, and alongside it, Dark Side of the Moon in surround sound, and it was just a magical, wild experience. Like, just like hearing the money go around you, and like, wow,
Right.
this is just, it's wild, yeah. And the visuals with VR possibilities are just so endless as far as creativity there.
Thank you. You're absolutely getting it. And like, yeah, so we literally do the exercise of putting on a blindfold. That blindfold sitting right here. And we'd like put a blindfold on people and like listen to Dark Side of the Moon and tell me what you see in your head. Like,
yeah.
And then we'll use that to make our videos. We did that with Cousteau, a local producer, several years ago, and put a blindfold on a couple people and said, what do you see? And then we went out and made it. And yeah, like you said, the creative possibilities are endless. And I think we're looking for artists that kind of, there is that visual aspect that goes along with the music. Some music is just music and, it's a love song and there's nothing really visual about it. Others, you're like, wow, I can see the just streamers going across the sky and I can see people running through a field or whatever it is. It's very visual. And so we're talking to some artists I can't really name, but like, some people that just have, you watch their music videos. If you watch music videos and you're like, wow, this is super cool, I would like to be in this world. Those are like the ones that we're going after initially. So
yeah. I was just thinking of Disney's, I think it's Fantasia. Imagine a VR version of that movie.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
It'd be wild. Yeah.
Or, there's so many movies. So I drool, frankly, Tim, over like the big animation houses. Pixar, think Toy Story, just wrap that around your head, right?
Right.
Or
yeah.
Avatar. Someone actually told us that one of our videos looked like Avatar, which was a big compliment to me. I was happy to hear that. But I just, Avatar is that the digital world is already there. It's already created. All they need to do is really, make it into an app, make it into a series of immersive experiences or whatever. And so, yeah, that's the opportunity we're trying to take advantage of.
Yeah. As far as your background in music, I see guitars behind you.
Yeah.
You play guitar. What else are you up to music wise for yourself?
Yeah. Well, I'm making VR music videos, but musically, it's always been it's always been a hobby for me up until this point. Which was another thing, Tim, that why I finally decided to leave Apple is I found a way, I thought, to bring my hobby. I have two, like, aside from my wife Denise, who I love immensely, and my family, of course, they're number one priority in my life. But but then second and third are technology and music. And music has always been a hobby, which is just frustrating for me. Technology has always been my career. That's been amazing. But finding a way to bring those two together has been great. But up until now, I play guitar since I was young. I've been in bands, I've been in heavy metal bands. I've been in, cover bands. I'm in a band with occasionally with some friends. We call Galaxy Rage, and we write songs for people on their birthdays. So our friend Sam turned 50, and we did Pour Some Sammy on Me instead of Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard. We just do fun stuff like that. So yep, I still play guitar. I'm always trying to get better. It's always something that I'm frustratingly not nearly as good as I want to be. Music is a lifelong journey like that. I'm also digging around with EDM stuff. So, I play around with producer-ish type stuff and trying to mix live music with electronic music is a fun challenge. So
yeah.
Jerry
Goldsmith comes to mind as far as a film composer that was like the master of let's bring electronic instruments into a full orchestra. He was just so great at that stuff.
Oh, cool. I don't know the name, I don't think.
Yeah, he was. He did the Star Trek motion picture, everything from that to Rudy. Like, he did a lot of stuff film wise.
Okay.
But he did a lot with synthesizers and a lot with treating electronic instruments as good as the real stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much electronic music out there now, and it's just amazing the number of synthesizers and the number of I mean, you can emulate everything that's real, but you can also create so many new sounds. You can spend a lifetime sound authoring, just creating new sounds. Just create it's intimidating. Well, I mean, you completely get lost in the world, and you can go down a million rat holes. So
Totally.
that's what's exciting
Yeah.
and scary about it.
So with PulseJet, what type of music videos and concerts, but more so music videos, as you said, the focus is kind of shifting towards, do you aim to create as far as, you mentioned the blindfold. So is it kind of like you're working with artists and hoping to kind of create their vision, and kind of it can be different styles depending on what they're after, right?
Definitely. So I'll give you two examples here, Tim. One is my two latest and favorite kind of pieces that we've worked on. Future Primitive is one of them, and that is kind of this ethereal spoonscape, I'll call it, actually. So it's super interesting. We worked with an Argentinian animator, Hernan Rossi, who literally animates everything out of spoons. And so, and I don't know if you watched this, but
I did, yeah.
Okay, cool. So did you notice the spoons the first time you viewed it? Or I don't know.
No.
Okay.
Did not.
Did you ever notice the spoons?
To be honest,
No.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I love this. Okay. You may not, because they're kind of well hidden. So go back and watch it again. Not only is everything out of you around you made out of spoons, but if you look down, you're riding on a spoon. And
I was looking down quite a bit because the reflections in the water were some of my favorite parts, just like visually.
Yeah, they're kind of nice. But there's basically birds flying around you, and those are all made of spoons. If you look closely, the like hundreds or thousands of spoons is very intricate. And if you look at there's gods that kind of rise up out of the water. They are also made out of spoons. There's a spoon palace on your right. And then at the end, I won't spoil it. What happens at the end? Also made of spoons. So yeah, this is like something. This is something, Tim, that like you can't make with 360 video. We do a lot of that. We do these concerts, and The Weeknd did a good piece. But this is like entirely animated, entirely creative, and a world that you can't go to. You can't take a bus and go to this world. We're just taking you to a different place for 5 minutes.
Yeah. The Weeknd's experience was very much like, here's what you can do with high-end CGI from movies and putting him in. That's what it felt like to me. It was like, let's.
Oh, CGI? Was it?
Well, it was like real stuff, but like they're bending the road in like very weird. Like it felt like they're definitely using computers to make this thing do what it's doing. So I don't know.
It was also a strangely like realistic scene. I mean, he's riding in an ambulance, right? I think they're down in Joshua Tree.
But it felt like a blockbuster movie almost, as far as like Michael Bay is, right? Like something that it looks realistic, but it's not. Yeah,
kind of like that. Yeah. But it's The point is, I mean, the point is the way we're trying to go is a little bit more creative than just every realistic.
Totally.
Scene. Dark Side of the Moon. The million things that could come to mind should be good. Another one I'll talk about is Launchpad Infinity. So this is a fun one. He is a local producer, and in many ways, what we're trying to do, we're trying to bring the live concert experience, to you at home, but also wrap it around your head. So, we look at so many. There's amazing. They call them VJs, right? Video jockeys, VJs that do the visuals that go along with these producers. Deadmau5 comes to mind. I recently went to a Deadmau5 show, and there's great visuals going on behind him, right? So, and these guys are actually artists, and they're actually performers. And I don't think that this 2D format isn't taking advantage of what they're doing. And so we contacted this company, Visual Drip Productions in Canada, who does a lot of these amazing visuals. And Visual Drip produced several scenes for us, and then we rendered them and incorporated them along with a Launchpad Infinity performance that happened to be up in the Oakland Hills. in the trees up in the Oakland Hills. And so bringing together, that's a lot of elements, right? This stage performance visuals rendered in 3D but brought together with a live performance. So that was a fun one to work on. It's a little psychedelic, like it's pretty far out there and a little bit weird, you might say, but kind of cool.
Very cool. Yeah. As far as genres, I do hope at some point you guys reach out to jazz artists, because I think that has potential there. Yeah.
We any and all. Yes. I mean, please send, if you have recommendations. I'm not a huge jazz fan myself.
Yeah.
Please send them our way. But genre-wise, we are open and willing to work with anyone, from symphonies and orchestras and operas to country to EDM and everything in between. There is a little.
Yeah. What's the approach to what's your guys' approach of working and approaching new artists for this?
Well, that's been a learning experience. And literally we were cold calling at first, kind of, figuring out, there's a database out there called Roster that has a lot of the entertainment people, and we're looking people up and finding them that way.
'Cause licensing wise, you have the music studios that own like records and stuff, like that I can see getting messy real quick.
Oh yeah. You got it.
Yeah.
You got what I've been doing for the last 2 years of my life, is trying to crack apart the music industry and who to talk to and how it works. And if anyone out there knows, please let me know, because we've actually made a ton of progress over the last year. We've kind of figured it out. And Lindsay Levante is really on my team. She's our artist outreach and business development, and she's done an amazing job of helping me figure this out. Actually, with the help of Berklee School of Music, where she's taking things like licensing classes and things like this. But we have, yes, the music business is extremely complicated, and there's a lot to it. And there's so many personalities is the toughest thing, I should say. You got to deal with the artist and their managers and the labels, and the people managing rights, and now there's even technology involved to scrape the bits and figure out what songs are in there and things like this. So yep, that's a whole topic that is probably far too boring for me to go into on this podcast, but there's a lot there, I'll say that. But back to, I think it's an interesting question, connecting with artists. Interesting story. One of the first ones, I sat down with my co-founder, Nate, when we first started the company, and we said, okay, we should do a couple demos, basically, right? And in kind of a Bill and Ted's moment, we looked at each other and said, Megadeth! And so we reached out to Megadeth, and we found their manager. Danny Nizell is his name. He happens to be Dolly Parton's manager as well. Which is really kind of weird, and we that's a whole story in and of itself, how Megadeth ended up on Dolly Parton's, basically under his management. He's not on Butterfly Records like Dolly would be. That'd just be weird, but he's got his own label. But long story, very short. We ended up doing a demo video for them and bought the rights, and I'm talking to them tomorrow, as a matter of fact, with Lindsay. About we're going to publish our stuff on Megadeth Digital, which is like their digital fan club. So kind of cold calling worked in the beginning, connecting with people. Now artists are starting to come to us, and that's really amazing. Super happy about that. We've reached a point where they're like, yeah, we hear what you're doing, and we don't need to explain anymore, right? We don't need to explain everything we're doing. Like, oh, we have an app. That was a huge milestone for us. Like before that, you're like, well, it does this and does this. Imagine this. And they're like, what? Okay, I'm not. And then how do you make money? And what? And now it's like, okay, download our app, try a couple videos, buy this one for $1.99, take a look at the VR album that's blah blah blah, and they get it. So
totally, yeah. So with I'm curious about the scalability of the videos as far as quality. You're available on Quest as well, much lower screens. You're capturing very high resolution. You said earlier, 6K and 8K. How's the scaling of the video quality actually work? I know it's loading as you hit play, and it's being downloaded, or how does that all work? Yeah.
I don't know how deep you want me to go on technical details, but so this is probably our biggest challenge right now is delivering this stuff at quality, because I look at this stuff, I look at our masters on Vision Pro, and it's awesome, and it's 8K, and it's where I want to be, and it's crystal clear, stereoscopic, and basically, we're streaming them, and so it's basically used as an adaptive bitrate technology, and so we're of course dependent on the pipeline between the servers and the user and whatever Wi-Fi they're using and so on, and then it will adapt the bitrate and reduce the resolution on lower bandwidth. And so we've had and then it's dependent on the global distribution of the streams, and so we've had people in London, for example, complain that they don't get as good quality as they do here. And so we are going through major infrastructure upgrades right now, as well as app updates to make that perform as well as we possibly can. There are major developments in streaming technology going on right now as well. Something called HEVC, MVHEVC, multi-view high efficiency video codec, which is great for VR and is on the order of 5 times better than the previous compressions we were using, which was MPEG, and we're actually just switching to that next month. So it's probably our biggest technical priority right now is improving quality and delivery quality. And then we've debated, just actually downloading the videos.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because you're buying this thing, and I have a 1 terabyte unit. I could. It'd be nice to just have it off. Going an airplane too. Just let me download it at a full resolution, and maybe you can even have in the settings pick your download quality maximum and whatever from there.
We had it in our beta. We took it out for a couple of reasons, but I think we'll put it back in probably in February here. So that's definitely the thing. There's the only risk I'm worried about. There is a slight security risk with that. Now, Apple's got it pretty well buttoned up, of course, with Apple security, so we're not worried about people stealing video files. But MetaQuest maybe not quite so good. So once Taylor Swift calls us and we do her concert, people might want to steal that, and so we need to keep those files pretty buttoned up.
Yeah, it makes sense. And as far as files downloaded into Vision Pro, it's such a weird thing, because with like other devices, you have iTunes and the ability to get stuff off of that through iTunes file sharing, but the Vision Pro is kind of like feels like more of a black box as far as like getting files off that thing.
And it's certainly they've got the file obfuscation all set up for us to secure our files properly. So worried about in Vision Pro.
And you could probably, I'm sure you looked at DRM possibilities for doing Quest, where you could download it and have it DRM'd in some way, but DRM can be broken, of course. But
exactly, all those risks. No, it's there's security there. It's just a matter of how bulletproof.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, how excited were you guys by the announcement? I think it was last year from Blackmagic to buy similar cameras, I think, to what Apple's using for their fully immersive stuff. I know some of the stuff you do is pure computer generated, but you do capture performances as well.
Okay. Well, I'm probably gonna ruffle some feathers on this one.
Are you using better cameras than what Blackmagic's rolling out, or?
I like to think so.
Okay. That's good to
hear. But there's philosophies here. So actually, this boils down to 180 video versus 360 video, and so the cameras that we have, Insta360 Pro 2 cameras, do full 8K stereoscopic spherical video.
Oh, okay.
The Blackmagic are basically 180, meaning it's all in front of you. It's 180 degrees of video. It's not entirely surrounding you. And so to me, that's just an evolution of a ordinary video camera, if you will. You add a second eyeball, and you've got stereoscopic video, but it's still just right in front of you. And having spent my whole career in VR, I didn't make this thing to use half of it. I made it to use the whole thing. And so this is a design principle of mine that I've stuck to, that I literally, have fights with my own guys about, but I'm committed to keeping the graphics all around you. and rendering 360. So the Blackmagic camera is still a 180, 120. Apple kind of renders actually in this weird kind of, it's not even a hemisphere, it's kind of a outline shape. If you look around you, kind of this goggles looking shape around you. And they do it for very specific reasons. But
I'll be curious, as they improve field of vision in Apple Vision Pro 3 and 4, where you have less goggly vision, if they'll change that aspect too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and there's resolution and bandwidth and a lot of factors. I think actually the biggest factor on this is that people, like all of Hollywood, is so used to doing things in front of you. They have a crew on one side of how they produce, right? And they've got a director sitting in their director's chair and a camera guy and, and a guy with the boom mic, and they got, and then on one side of the camera, and then in front of the camera, you have the actors and the screen, the green screen, and everything else. And thinking about producing things all around you is so different. You got to get rid of that crew. You have to double the amount of effort you put into set design and make sure everything's clean around you. You need to, the actors need to be, conscious that there's other things going on in the scene. In fact, you need to design the scene differently if you want to make it interesting. It's not, and we're not trying to do a concert that's just on a stage in front of you. We're trying to put the band around you. If you look at some of our first videos, we did an EDM video. There's dancers all around you. There's a sculpture all around you. There's interesting things going on all around you. And so we're trying to make use of this new spherical canvas in a way that it really hasn't done before. And we liken this to the many transitions of media over time. If you go from radio to TV, or silent TV to spoken TV. There was actually a transition in Hollywood. I was reading about this recently that, a lot of the actors that were acting in silent movies couldn't talk. So they come up with this new format and start recording them, and I'm not really good at that. And so their career is kind of over. And I think this is a bit of a transition. We don't know how long it'll take, but and it's a different format. So there will still be TV, of course. There will still be, all the 2D screens that we do all day long and every day. But we're trying to make use of the new spherical canvas, the new art form, if you will, and do something different with it. So that's our approach.
I was fascinated to hear Ridley Scott mentioned, I think he was shooting with 10 to 20 cameras as part of how he was able to shoot the film in a month or something stupid quick. But I just want to see the behind the scenes setup for how do you set up 20 cameras where they're not in the view of other cameras that are also capturing the scene. It seemed interesting, the number of cameras he was utilizing.
It's an interesting problem for sure. If you look at, I think actually Apple did a good job with this, but if you look at their Alicia Keys piece, and now it's still, like I said, 180, so there's still stuff hidden behind the cameras, but the cameras are in the scene, but they're in the little
the tower, or
yeah, so that's actually a perfect example of how Apple thought through, here's how we're going to place these cameras, obscure them from each other, and do something special here.
And only if you're, geeks like me and you, would you recognize, oh, that's a camera there.
Yep.
Most normal people would not know what that is,
Exactly.
Yeah. So as far as capturing your artist, it's the process. I know you have this 360-degree green screen. Is that one of the main things you're using these days to do this?
We use it a fair amount. I would say, our newer stuff is much more CG oriented. So we've been through, I tell people we've been through kind of 3 generations of video, the way we do this stuff. The first one was pure video, and then our latest one, generation 3, are much more CG, almost all CG. So Future Primitive, for example, is all CG. So, we're moving to much more CG.
Have you explored instead of filming the artist performing, would there be a way to capture the artist performing where they become a 3D model that you have all of the data to transform this artist into a creature of some sorts or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing with Bjork. I mean, Bjork is Bjork is motion capture data. We have an avatar. It does look like Bjork, so it's her body scan data, turned into an avatar. But of course, you can do that. You can, transform.
And then you have the balls on, for the motion capture. Yeah.
Well, actually, so it's an exciting area of technology. You ask about how AI can be applied to 3D. So there's a fair amount of video-based AI now that can generate tracking information purely based on video.
That's neat. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So another exciting thing, a lot of the equipment they used to need face tracking can now be done with cameras or even LiDAR, like with iPhone, face tracking stuff.
Without having like 1,000 little tiny dots in their head.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice.
Yep. And motion tracking can be done purely based on video. You take a couple of cameras and place them, and you can convert that into mocap data. So that's exciting stuff as well.
Now, I noticed on your website you're also scanning real-life objects to create digital versions. So you're developing this like asset library, is that right?
Yeah, I think like Gearty Studio, that's not too unique from a lot of studios out there. But of course, we're developing an asset library and scene library that we can tap into the future, and those will become part of our intellectual property. But I don't know. What'd you run across on the website?
I was just curious. It just mentioned that you guys were doing the captures of things around San Francisco kind of area. But I'm curious, like how is the scans done? Like, what resolution are you able to get out of that? And
actually, so Nathan Batiste is a licensed drone pilot on our team, and so he actually will attach we attach our 360 cameras to the drones. And you can actually do it with just the onboard cameras of drones, but you can fly them around. I think we did Koi Tower, and you can scan them. And there's a number of available 3D tools that you can take an image and convert them into 3D. We use Scaniverse a lot, so this is super fun. Have you used Scaniverse?
No.
Okay, I would actually encourage everyone to try Scaniverse.
Is this an iOS app?
Yep, iPhone. Load it on iPhone, and it's free. I think you do like their models. I believe it's owned by Niantic now.
Okay.
And so I think they own your models when you upload them. So just beware, but no big deal. But it's amazing stuff. And so I was at Stanford campus recently with their Rodin exhibit, and just happened to have just loaded the latest version of Scaniverse and was walking around capturing the Thinker, for example.
Yeah.
And so how it works is you can just you push the button just like recording a video, and then you walk around it and you kind of paint the model with your phone, and it generates the 3D mesh, or at least captures the data for it, and then either processes on board or uploads to the cloud and generates a full 3D mesh that then we can use in our videos. So
and then you'd have to color it and put in the details over top that later, or
no, actually, it does texturing and coloring as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They come out in what's called, I think it's a GLB file, which we bring right into Blender, and boom, it's got everything on it. Looks awesome.
Nice. Very cool. And then as far as the pure CGI crafted music videos, what apps are you using to actually create all that stuff?
We are a big Blender house. I mean, I there's a few secrets I don't want to get into.
Sure.
We do have a few. We have some special sauce. We have some of our own developed stuff. We have a number of tools, but Blender is kind of central to what we do. We use a fair amount of Unity as well, but Blender is an amazing tool.
Who makes Blender? Is that the name of the company, or is it an Avid tool?
I think it is. Yeah, that's what they do. It's Blender.org or whatever. Blender.org for sure.
Blender is. That's kind of their main and only thing they do. Okay.
And as far as I know, they're independent. It is basically open source, as far as I know. And I have to say, it's one of the most successful, if not the only, like hugely successful open source software that I've seen. I don't know how they do it. They've got some pretty big studio sponsors, I think. So it's free. The price is right, man.
So it's free.
It's incredible. And
wow.
So I look at that.
Yeah, that's cool. Is this similar to Apple's Shake program they made back in the day and then discontinued? I forget. Okay. It was a while ago. Probably 2004. I remember watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I saw in the end credits, Apple Shake was like
not
credited
familiar
in
with
there.
that
It's
one.
like, oh, that's definitely of
But
an era.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm totally speculating here, but I gotta believe. I mean, I've
Okay.
followed.
Yeah.
There's the 3D tools out there like Maya and um, what are the other ones? Maya, 3D Studio Max was a big one. ZBrush is a texturing thing that's in the pipeline. So there's a huge pipeline of stuff, right? You go through. There's modeling where you basically create the model. There's kinematics and you create the skeleton of the thing, and then you animate it and you texture it and you render it and you compositing. There's a huge pipeline involved in all the CGI and VFX stuff, and so ZBrush was, I think, focused on texturing and sculpting a little bit. You could do some sculpting in there. What's amazing, and all these tools have different strengths in these areas, but Blender does it all, and it does it all really well. And so, where I mean, it used to be at one point you would go into one tool and do some modeling, and then you bump it out of a different tool, give it to a different guy, and he would do the texturing. There's still a lot of people involved sometimes because these things are hard. Texture mapping is a whole domain, and animating is a whole domain. And so, of course, the big animation houses have, disciplines for each of these. But the one tool, Blender, does it all and does it all pretty well, and for free. It's ridiculous. So mad props to Blender. I don't know how they do it. They've got an amazing small team, and we're thankful to have it. And I hope to be a big sponsor of theirs one day. We're a small sponsor now, and we don't have the budget to do too much more. But we've almost built the company on it, and I'm thankful for it. So yeah, and anyone interested in diving into CG type stuff, have some fun with it. There's YouTube channels galore. The classic is you haven't tried Blender at all. The classic modeling exercise is to make a donut. And so the first thing you have to do when you get into Blender is make a donut. There's a classic tutorial out there on it, and there's a bunch of fun donuts that come out of it. But if you have any interest in CG type stuff, go make a donut.
That's cool.
Post it to YouTube and tag me in it. It's cool.
Very cool. So currently in PulseJet, the previews for the videos are just flat 2D trailers. Have you considered crafting trailers that are the fully immersive version of that to give the customer a better idea of what they're going to purchase versus the flat one?
I'll take that as a feature suggestion for sure. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because you're able to open the app and there is like a sample of like here's like a highlights reel of like a bunch of stuff within the app, but when you actually go to the actual video or each individual video, it's just the trailer. So it'd be neat to have immersive versions of those. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, definitely something we could do. We do have a lot of demo, free stuff out there, so they can dive into our other stuff and get fully immersed. But no reason we can't have a little immersive trailer for sure.
Cool. Yeah. And then I noticed one album. There's only one album, and it gives you 5 videos from a music festival in Joshua Tree for the price of 4. How do you anticipate more bundling like this in the future? More albums? What are your thoughts on I guess bundling, monetization in general? Is subscription something you've explored and all that?
Yeah, great question. So I'll start with our pricing model, which I'll credit to our co-founder Brian Addison, who also worked at Apple. But he kind of set our pricing model, which we call avocado toast pricing. And I don't know if you eat avocado toast or if you've.
Mm-hmm. I've had it before. It was much more popular when I lived out in Los Angeles, of course.
Okay. And do you remember how much you paid for avocado toast?
It was like $5 or something crazy. It's way too expensive, but
Okay. $5. Okay, that might be crazy, but do you know how high it goes? What's the most expensive avocado toast?
I'm guessing like $15 avocado toast exists.
You can go up to $18-$19 on avocado toast. So
yeah, that's wild. Yeah,
exactly. You could probably buy an avocado farm for that much. No, avocados are expensive. But anyways, our videos are priced. within line with avocado toast from $2 to $19. And we're somewhat experimenting at this point, right, with what people are willing, of course. So it's experimentation, but we figure, we aim for each video to be better than avocado toast. If you got your choice of how to spend $4.99 at breakfast, we'd rather you watch one of our videos than buy some avocado toast. So, but that's kind of a joke, of course. But then packaging it into albums is definitely part of our business model. So, the work we've done with Launchpad Infinity and Future Primitive, we hope that will grow into an EP or an album. And then we sell that whole album as a bundle, as a single package, as an album, as you might remember from the old days of us that remember record stores. We hope to do a lot more of that. Bjork will be the next one with 8 or 9 tracks and maybe some bonus features. So you'll be able to buy the VR version of Volnakura, and hopefully many more. The pricing model will evolve. We're going to see what people are willing to pay for, and for sure, subscriptions are a possibility. We need enough content. We don't want to be the company that goes out and starts charging you $9.99 a month for nothing. And I hate that. I'm just so. Everyone's a little burned out on the subscription thing, anyways. I think
if it's not something you're using pretty regularly, then it's easy to cancel. Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, you frustrate customers. Like I can't tell you how many times I've signed up for something and all of a sudden I'm getting $9.99 a month on my credit card just because they got my credit card. I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. And so.
Yeah. And you also need enough content where they're not just burning through the entire catalog and canceling.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. And even Netflix and Hulu and these guys, they struggle to keep enough content to keep you subscribed. So it might be a while before I can get there. We think we can. Music is vast and huge, right? So, and
music you often experience multiple times if you really enjoy a song, or whatnot. I'll listen to a Love Supreme 1,000 times. If not more. Yeah. So if you get something that really hits like that, someone may watch that over and over.
And you want to see different angles, right? That's why we're trying to make it. Oh, I watched it the 3rd time and I never saw that. Oh, I watched it the 5th time. Hey, these things are made out of spoons. I didn't even realize. We can have all kinds of Easter eggs in these things and just make them things you want to watch over and over again. So that's the idea.
So this space seems to be pretty vibrant. There's Maze VR is another one that comes to mind. Apple's doing their videos and many of them are music. What, if anything, have you learned from the others doing this stuff that you've kind of we can incorporate something like that here?
Yeah, good question. I think they're all, in a very similar spirit. I think, the running joke on Amaze VR is if you want a lap dance from T-Pain, that's the place to be.
Yeah, you get nice enough and close. Yeah. That is a thing. Like a lot of people also with Apple's immersive videos, like Alicia Keys is right in your face. Like the uncomfortability about some of this stuff for some people is like, man, I'm really close to this artist, and this is a bit awkward. Yeah,
and you might like
exactly.
It or you might not.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a magical experience with Bjork. Like being on the Icelandic, volcano flows with her. Like it's cool. You're standing next to, or Alicia Keys. So many people walk away from that being being next to the artist. So that's definitely one takeaway. I think, the Miz VR stuff, some of it is bordering on trashy in my opinion. And so we try to have a little bit more taste in some of the stuff we do. Now the trashy stuff can be very popular, so that's inevitable. And we don't have any bounds as far as, pop music goes or what the performers do, or what's going on in the scene. So that's all an experimentation. But I think, the ones that do something really interesting. The Weeknd was cool, but I'm not inspired by it because it's not it doesn't do anything new. It doesn't take advantage of the new format. Trying to think of Deadmau5 has, I think, his own company. He spawned his own company with Richie Houghton. He's one of my favorite EDM artists. I'd love to work with him. But what he did was not cool, or not. I shouldn't say that. That's harsh. Not very interesting to me from a VR standpoint. You go in this room and you're in this empty club and he's there. His avatar's up there with a DJ, or with a deck, and he's DJing, and like his cat avatar is kind of crawling around his leg, and that's kind of neat. But there's no one there, and you're just like, I don't want to be there. Okay, here's the worst one actually, Ozzy Osbourne. Oh my God, this is the one I do not want to be. Meta and Meta Horizon Worlds. Sorry, Zuckerberg, but this was terrible. Meta paid $2.5 million to Ozzy Osbourne, and they made a terrible avatar of him. And then they went in this 3D world, and all they're doing is playing Ozzy videos up on the thing and charging people money for it. And so, couple things wrong with that. Like, to me, they made a mockery of Ozzy, the Prince of Darkness. But more importantly, all they did was take 2D videos and put them up on the wall. Yeah, and so I take all that as inspiration, right? I see the good things and the bad things, and be like, we don't want to be that, but we're trying to take the creativity to a new level and really do something interesting with it. So,
yeah. Well, is there anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I think if for people listening out there, we're very open to ideas at this point. We don't know which we're very malleable as a company. We're 2 years in, and still trying to chart our path. Music is a huge space. There's a lot of people we want to work with out there, and anyone that has ideas should, more than feel free to reach out to us. Like I said, we're open to working with any genre. I'm a big heavy metal fan, EDM fan, but jazz, country, orchestra, symphony. We want to run the gamut. So yeah, reach out to us with ideas, and love to collaborate with people.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I was just imagining with like orchestras and bands and stuff. Like, imagine capturing the performance and augmenting like what's on stage. Like, I don't know, the tuba. Like, I don't know, like having colors like highlighting where the music's being played on the stage at the time, kind of thing.
Oh. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Not to spend more time here. You're trying to wrap up. Actually, like seeing what music looks like what does music look like, is something that we're specifically exploring. And so, like, a lot of people have an idea of what the sound coming out of a tuba or a violin should look like, or what a harp would should actually look like visually, and what that looks like spinning around your head. So and then moving it around your head, the spatial audio aspect of it as well, because of course Apple does amazing things with spatial audio. They have a whole Apple Music channel dedicated to it, and so to have things moving around your head in conjunction with graphics is something we're hunting down.
Very cool. Well, where can people learn more about PulseJet Studios?
Yep, we're all over all the socials. So PulseJetStudios.com. We're on Facebook as PulseJet. We're on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can submit a project idea or contact our team from PulseJetStudios.com. We're not hard to track down, so come find us.
Cool. And then in the App Store on Vision Pro, just search for PulseJet.
Or search for PulseJet on App Store, on Vision Pro, and Meta Quest.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, John. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Well, it's my interview with John. My thanks to John for his time recording. My thanks to you for your time, attention, tuning in. You can learn more about PulseJet over at PulseJetStudios.com. Once again, you can support this podcast over at visionpros.fm/Patreon. My great thanks to everyone that supports the show. With that, I'll talk with everyone again real soon.